Talk about the perspective when you go to Europe and different countries. Now you're in Czechoslovakia. You've been in Amsterdam. Oh, incidentally, while I do jump around, I have been telling people that some official, a female, in the Amsterdam officialdom, government official, she was saying that in response to requests for the oil, the government would be making that oil available. Have you heard language like that?
I've heard some talk from, well, I've been contacted by several groups in Holland, about them trying to push this through, but that's happening in quite a few different countries here. Oh. There are many groups, but I haven't heard anything yet about Amsterdam, the government actually supplying the oil. I haven't heard that one.
That would be jumping in with both feet, eh?
That would be a revolutionary move. I salute Amsterdam if it's going to go in that direction.
I'm broadening the camera now. I'm in the frame. I had tried to write a letter to Fidel Castro saying that he could work a coup. He could show off one brilliant war move before he says goodbye by inviting you to come and share your revelations and turn Cuba into a haven for, treating cancer and all.
Be happy to do that, Joe. And actually, about 4 or 5 years ago, when we heard that Fidel Castro had cancer, we contacted him and told him, we emailed him and told him about this oil and told him to start taking it. I don't know if he did or not.
Well, I have heard that although his brother is seen as replacing him, that recently Fidel decided to move back in on the how do you say, on the get low.
Down low, huh?
Down low, that's it.
Down low.
And I have had an opportunity to interact with Fidel personally a little bit, and he does indeed, as you probably already know, pride himself on operating like you operate, at a high level of grip on truth, that he likes to play that game within the medical literature as well. And he reads a lot of medical literature. And I hate to repeat a story, but he was instrumental in a laboratory in Cuba being set up to create interferon. And when he would visit them each week and have like a lunch with them, how you doing? And then eventually they did indeed succeed, and he celebrated with them around the time that that week that the discovery had been made.
Cuba is such a great medical country. I mean, it's just wonderful. The work that they're doing in Haiti, and I just have to mention that it's been really powerful in terms of training medical doctors as well as being on the ground. America comes in with 20,000 troops, and Fidel sends in more medical doctors.
Yeah, I guess you've heard that one too, Rick?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what the Haitian people are doing is marvelous. I mean, it's just about time that the country started standing up and telling these companies like Monsanto where to get off, and that's just what they did. And the United States of America should do the same thing.
Well, no doubt about it. We should do it, and that means us. We're talking about us now here, Joe and I, making sure we do it. Well, we're going to be down at the United Nations on June 1. That's next week. America's supposed to be pulling up 20,000 troops out. Of course, she's replacing them with 500 National Guards, she said, from Louisiana. And that's a special issue because Louisiana shares a natural peace with Haiti. But at June 1, we're going to be at the United Nations at 10:30 in the morning. We want to say to the UN to pack her bags and go right on with the U.S.
Now, you're shouting outside, or they gave you a room on the inside?
And we have nothing on the inside yet that I know of. We have requested. So we will be outside. We're going to probably just go to the plaza and gather there at the plaza.
That's right. Yeah.
And hold a big discussion in the plaza about what's happening in Haiti. And right now they're killing black youth in Haiti at the university level. They've been doing it for a long time. The UN had been doing it, and now everybody's doing it. So as America prepares to pull out, they are trying to take a full control of the local people, so that the college students are doing what college students do. College students are acting out Listen to me, New York college students in Haiti need you. They need us calling Obama. They need us calling the Attorney General. They need us calling the UN. They need us to be at our Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, that UN Plaza, on June 1 at 10:30 to give our voice along with the rest of the world, because people are gathering in Brazil, they're gathering in the islands of the Americas down here in the Caribbean, they're gathering in other places in Central and South America, they're going to gather in Canada, they're gathering in France and in parts of Europe. People are gathering all over Africa to say, pull out, go home. Let these people have the right to self-determination, which is a human right under the articles, all the articles of the Human Rights Declaration of 1948 that America has just recently, really signed on to, and then most of them haven't been ratified.
The parallel that comes to mind is Rome, that Rome had 27 legions all around the world, and we have something like 500 and more military bases around the world.
That's right, and Africa's loaded with them.
Right. Although...
And look what happened to Rome. And it's
took them one day, didn't it? Well, I don't think we learned much from history. You've already said that. We have not learned from history.
The Gulf oil spill is a pretty good slap in the face in the direction of our corruption catching up with us, I think.
That's Mama Nature slap. Yeah. It might have blown up on our own, but Mama Nature's going to keep pushing it out. And I've been trying to figure out how do you pump mud into something and expect it to be closed? Have you figured that out, Jack? They said mud and concrete, but all of those are water-based. And so,
I just swallowed it without challenging it, but I don't have an answer for you. I don't think I'm going to argue that it gets hard. It would be nice. I'd heard cement, but what do you have a wrap on that one, Rick?
Well, the only thing I could say was go to where the well is and fill it full of hemp oil, and it'll likely heal that too.
Amen.
But no, it's a horrible mess, and there's really no need for these situations to even arise. If we were tackling our energy issues in the proper manner, none of this would be happening because we wouldn't be using these fossil fuels in the first place.
That's right. That's right.
I have a chart on my wall at home, the Hubbard's curve. Have you seen that one, Rick?
No, I haven't seen it, Joe.
It is fantastic. I think everyone should have one on their wall. But basically, it is a graph of the amount of oil that was discovered and a graph of the amount of oil that was consumed year by year from the beginning of about 1850. And in the first, from about up till about 1910, we're talking about between a half an inch and an inch on the graph. And then 1930, you get about 3 inches. And then 1960, you get about 7 inches.
Doubling.
And then where we're at right now is about 20 inches.
Whoa. Well, the issue is, why do we need the oil? We got sun. We have to know the world.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's provided us with sun. We got wind. We've got water, and we have natural vegetables. All of these things that can produce. Algae can produce oil.
The point I actually wanted to make, Rick, was just a little bit unusual. And that is that we've already used up so much of the planet's oil that we owe it to future generations to not use any more and save what little is left for the rest of humanity in the future.
Yeah, to use it for some other purposes. But we don't need the oil. We don't need to use oil.
You're right.
It is just a lack of common sense to say that the sun is there and you don't use it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay, dear. I agree with what you folks are saying. There's just absolutely no need for us to be behaving in the manner we are. And there are so many alternatives that just makes perfect sense.
Yes.
But the people have to get together to make the change, because these corporate types are never going to do the right thing. Not unless they're forced.
You know, incidentally, I think I cheated when I said 20 inches now. I'm trying to remember the actual scale. I think it went to about, let's see, it's about 12 inches, I'd say. But we already hit the peak. Now we're already coming down. So in about 30 years ago, 30 years from now, we'll be like where we were 30 years ago. That so it's all over that game. And that's just one more of the corruption that we overdid. Whatever you call it, we abuse the environment because our guys are not tuned into being good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and they're not our guys. They're the corporate guys.
Yeah.
And corporate scientists. Everybody is on the wrong track, and it's because they got to invest in looking at the auto age in a different way. So you won't be able to use oil. You're going to have to look at that in some different way. Looking at these humongous industries that we developed, how do you run the factories and stuff? And then there is human, just regular families and whoever, and housing. And these are conversations that we all need to be having. We do not need oil out of the ground. Mother Nature needs to have it. She has it down there for some reason. I'm not quite too sure why, but it's down there for some reason. And so maybe we should leave it down there for Mother Nature to continue to use. And we use that which has been provided to us, the sun with the solar energy, and we can definitely go into wind. And I understand now that there's a smaller windmill that you can even put on top of the house that's fairly safe. And then we are talking about other uses of water, water power. People were running windmills in Babylon 2500 BC.
Yes.
They were running pianos with windmills at Egypt 300 BC. And when the Western world was invaded in the, that's 15th, 16th, 17th century, they run nothing but windmills across the Egyptian landscape. So if people could do this thousands of years ago, have we not common sense to be able to do it now?
Or what do you make of the fact that the champion who has been listening to your idea is China? That they decided they're going to do it, and they did it.
Amen. Go right ahead, China.
Yeah. They became #1 it's ASAP, and they pulled it off.
Well, that makes common sense. I mean, it's just common sense to use that which nature has provided us, rather than going down up under the ocean and up under the ground, 5,000 feet down in the ocean. That doesn't make. I can't even begin to think of a lack of sense in that. That's just so childishly immature.
Half the problem, Colia, is just that people have this deep resistance to change.
Yes.
You know, like when the United States went to war back in the 1940s, they switched over to a war economy in a matter of months. And we could do the same here in this situation. It would just take a very short time to start making some sense out of this situation. But people act, they're just scared of the changes. They might lose their pension or their job. Well, these are not concerns that really hold water. As far as I'm concerned, our first concern has to be the future and the greater good of the people and this planet.
Listen to your... Yeah, go on, say it, Rick. Say it again.
Well, then the only way to do this is to go down the proper path, and that's the path of hemp and all of these other natural alternatives that are they're right at our fingertips. All we have to do is use them.
That's correct. The world has everything in that we need above the ground other than fish.
Right.
And we're poisoning them. And we don't know what this oil spill is going to do. We don't know how far it's going to go. I heard somebody said it could come up as high as North Carolina, but New York sits on the Gulf Stream. And so is it going to wind up in Long Island in the Long Island Sound?
Or England?
Oh, they said it could head straight for Europe. That's correct.
And with global warming, if the ice does pop over in the West Antarctic, they're talking about the coastline moving inland significantly, losing our coastal areas. So it would.
Oh yes, no doubt. And so we're looking at losing the grasslands and the whole coastline of the South. That some of that oil is already in the Mississippi River. So we're talking about destroying possibly the whole southern agricultural belt, because that's all of the tributaries that run into the ocean there, the largest being the Mississippi. Bring that oil straight on up to where I was born at. I was born at what was old LaFleur's Bluff, now called Jackson, Mississippi.
So do you picture, actually, it sounds to me like it's going to be by hand. We're going to have to mop it up. We're going to have to create little kind of nets, and the hay and straw is part of it, but it is really going to be an invasion.
Well, it's already invading. It's invading the coastline.
Yeah.
And so what happens?
That's Rick. Rick?
Well, I know. I mean, I watched everything that happened there with New Orleans, and I mean, the whole situation down there just horrified me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was. I think it was just as bad, if not worse, than 9/11. You know, like to see the government standing around doing nothing. And the worst of it was, I mean, weeks before the hurricane hit, I seen footage, and they showed people's backyards where the water was coming up on the other side of the levee.
That's correct.
And so they knew this was going to happen, but nobody did anything to put a stop to it. And I mean, New Orleans is one of the oldest historical cities in the United States, and to be honest, I've always dreamed of going there myself. But to watch what happened down there, to me, was just beyond belief.
Yeah, it was the tragedy of Katrina and Rita have not been dealt with. You know, the people can't go back, they can't vote. That tragedy is not. They're still trying to clean up, hopefully. But the areas where blacks lived have just been totally obliterated. Blacks were 70% of the city. They still remain the majority of the population, but they destroyed the middle class, so that people who were in the education field and in the social services were forced out of New Orleans with the coming of Katrina. And now you have a white government. It's back to where it was 40, 50 years ago.
When you see this too, like in Africa, Africa gives me a great deal of distress because, you know, I see all of these people dying down there with AIDS and all of these other curable diseases, you know, and what I see, they're trying to wipe Africa out.
Well, I think
Africa is a cradle of civilization, for God's sakes.
That's true. That's true. But there are those who believe that the present occupants should be soap or something, or cradled somewhere else. But you know, we're talking about a world where the genocide worldwide, all of Southern Asia is at risk. Southern Asia also is suffering from the extreme ecological changes of the last couple of hundred years. Islands are disappearing, whole islands. Good part of the coastline is going. So as we look at what we're doing to the planet, and then we measure that over against a major oil spill where we can clearly see the black stuff. We don't have to ask about it. We can see the bird life that's being destroyed by it. We can imagine what's happening to the aquatic life as this thing comes forward. But my whole move is to begin to talk about this all over the place, Rick, and demand legislation. We have to have legislation in place that says a president can't sit on his behind and ask any corporate company that's just blown up a hole in the ocean with water, with oil shooting up all over the place, I have to ask them to handle it. That's a government job. It should have been immediate, and there should have been no lagging on that. That is just unquestionable. But also that we can't have these teabaggers, as they're called. I don't think they know that the Boston Tea Party was led by a black man named Crispus Attucks, and that he was the first to go down. I don't think they know that. As soon as they discover that, they'll find some other name to call it. Probably the meat bag.
Well, at least you get to say it.
I'll say it so that because they don't know it. I noticed the press, it's been skipping around, and there were 5 men. And the leader was a black brother. But he had 4 white brothers at his side, and they did go down for the beginning of the initiation of what we know today as the Boston Tea Party. And all 5 of them are crying from their grave, go home, stay there, lock yourselves behind the closed doors and don't come back out. But whichever group we want to look at, we cannot continue to politic the issues of life. People cannot live on politics. Cannot live on politics.
We have to stop all of these foolish wars, and we've got to learn to start living together and getting along and caring about each other. You know, I mean, if something's happening to you and it's affecting your well-being, then it's affecting my well-being too. And people have to realize that.
Yeah, we get back to you say the cradle of civilization, out of the cradle of civilization. I am because we are. Because we are, I am. A basic tenet to be human. I am because we are. Because we are, I am. There are no individuals in the cradle. Not an old cradle anyway, the one out of which I recently came. You belong to the community. Community is everybody. We're one. We've always been one. We'll always be one. And now we just have to decide how we're going to be one. We can tear at each other and tear our body, this one body, into pieces, or we can live like humans should live, in total harmony with our whole environment, so that my mother would say, if you tear a limb off a tree, you got to plant 5 trees. And she meant that. My father would say, be very careful. When you walk in the mouth of a lion, tip lightly.
Good advice.
Be very careful. So I think we're in the mouth of a lion. We may be tipping lightly, but we need to take my mother's father's advice and pull his teeth. It's about teeth pulling. This is teeth pulling time in America and in the world. And this empire in which we live is going to have to close its doors as an empire. And stop pretending that it's its job to police the world.
Yes.
Which is to say, to rationalize it's dominating the world.
Amen.
Amen. You're right.
We got armies everywhere. I mean, got armies in Europe, armies in Asia, armies in Africa, armies everywhere. It's ridiculous.
It is domination. So we have
total
to
domination.
Face it. We're out to, if, like for example, the book by James Perkins, where he said that first we do it with visits from officials saying, look, we'll pay you off. Do you really want to oppose our corporate takeover of your economy?
That's right.
And if that doesn't work, there's a lot of steps before the military comes down, but that sort of backs it up.
Yeah.
So I was, again, the idea is to see the legalization of marijuana in terms of a lovely public awakening. And we see the truth for what it is, and we face the wrongdoing of those in power as the way to not make that mistake again.
Well, medical marijuana should be immediate. Medical marijuana is something that there should be no discussion on. That's what I'm fighting for, because I know people are going to fight the legalization of marijuana. But legalizing that which is necessary for medicine, for known cures, and I do mean known cures, immediate cures.
Right.
Or even the suspicion of a cure.
You're right.
You legalize that. So there's no fight around that. Right, New York? We can't fight on that. But
I mean, Colia, all you have to do is go back into the 1800s and look at the old pharmacopoeia. Over the half of the medicine made worldwide came from the hemp plant. And then just a decade or two later, you know, in the early 1900s, they take the most medicinal plant in the world out of medicine and deny its use to the people. Now, something smells very bad about that, doesn't it?
Yes, because now you have tons of new medicines to replace it. That anybody that look at the old civilizations, I don't care whether it's Africa, and especially here where you can see the peace pipe, but the old civilizations were very clear. Now, everybody didn't smoke the peace pipe, folks, so don't y'all go to thinking that everybody smoked the peace pipe. It didn't happen. It didn't happen in Africa either. The priests were in charge of these areas. These were priestly areas. But it was clear that the medical use of marijuana and other herbs were there, and they used them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would have no problem with them. If they want to replace marijuana with another medicine, fine. But it better be a better medicine than hemp was.
Well, I don't think that's the discussion. I think we need to say hemp is on the table as the medical replacement that we need for the other chemical medicines that we have, that we need to put the hemp on the table, the medical marijuana, and the other herbs will be used for what they were used for. My father's milkweed, now I understand that that's one of the cures for skin cancer. But these old folk just knew it. There's a plant that you go and you put it on your legs.
Oh, you know, that reminds me. I'm glad you got to that subject. Rick,
Yes.
the topical application is the economy route in this hemp thing that for topical application, you don't need a pound to start with. You might get by with, let's say, 1 or 2 ounces. Is that
Oh, yes.
And
Yeah, on average, 1 ounce of good hemp on average will usually produce between 3 and 4 grams of high-grade oil. And for skin conditions like skin cancers and that type of thing, sometimes it only takes a gram or 2 to cure them.
Uh-huh.
Well, we need to begin to really, New York, we have got to talk seriously about our health and about the potential cures. And to block a cure does not make sense. It doesn't. The Rockefeller drug laws need to be thrown out because people make money on not having the drug. Let's get down to the real issues here.
Uh-huh.
We make money. Our whole system is based on what? Arresting people for the use of a small amount of marijuana.
But do you think that, like, if you hand people a cure and say, this is it, that hemp oil cures it, and they're going to say, even in their stuff, oh, we don't want this to happen because it'll hurt corporate profits? It just...
Well, people don't understand the relationships between themselves and corporate profit.
Uh-huh.
You know, the average person doesn't have any idea about that. They're only concerned about what's immediate and what's being told to them.
Yeah.
And if CNN tells them, Fox tells them, ABC, NBC, CBS tells them, that's what they're going to do.
You know, one of my political slogans, Colia and Rick, is we are a fooled people.
Well, Colia just hit the nail right on the head there, and I meant to mention this before, too. Where is our so-called free press at? I mean, they've been bought, the rich have bought up the free press years ago, and they just feed us what they want us to know. There's no such thing as a free press anymore. Now, what we need, a real free press that reports the honest truth to the people. And if we had that, none of this would be going on.
They bum those kind of press, you know. It's not allowed in America. You get bummed, you get put off the air. It's very difficult to have a free press in the United States. The press is bonded. It is bonded to the corporate world. I think Eisenhower might say the military-industrial media complex as a threat to the nation.
Well, I think the internet is kind of a seize-the-moment opportunity.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well, it's one of the few places on this earth where you can find any truth, because you're not going to get it over a television, that's for sure.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So here's our big chance.
Well, it is our chance, but they're killing radio now. Black radio is really under serious stress in this country.
Oh.
Oh no, it kills them off one by one after the other, including the newscasters. They're killing them off too. By killing, I don't mean they're shooting them.
Oh.
They're just closing them down. For
Yeah.
economic reasons, all kind of economic strain and stress. But the media, we need a free media, but we have to take advantage of what we have, and certainly a Manhattan Neighborhood Network, while we have it, we have to be able to use it to our advantage. Our public television, as we fight for these airways, and of course the internet is there, and we have to maximize our access of the internet and maximize our access of whatever we have available to us. But then here again, in terms of making America, the democracy work, this is an area for legislation, but legislation with teeth.
Yes.
You know, you need teeth to chew. So we need to be able to chew in this country. So we need to put some teeth into the legislation, demanding that some implementation is in place, knocking out corporate, demanding that the United States Supreme Court decision to allow corporate funding of our campaigns, that be just withdrawn. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? We're all the way back to the 14th Amendment and the first major decisions under the 14th Amendment designed to provide the African newly out of slavery with protection. The first 4 honor big business in America as what? As an individual, designed to protect big business. Most people don't know that. Not the African. The African was denied that access until 1960s. 54 with the Supreme Court decision followed by that 1960s. So the legislation that is designed to protect us can easily be snatched away, and we need to begin in this country to fight for our legislation to not allow party patriotism to get in the way of where we stand on any issue. Of course, I'm running on that Green Party line, but if the Green Party becomes a Democratic Party, a Republican Party, I won't be on that line. I mean, you know, we have to just begin to say that we want decent party politics that's committed to the development and protection of people, land, animals, our resources, and not to Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and threats on North Korea, threats on, well, Pakistan they've already invaded, but threats on Iran and threats on India, where we are now, you know, forcing them to take up this nuclear energy again. They have nuclear energy, but when we were screaming about the economy falling to pieces in 2008, what was happening in India, America was violating the nuclear agreement, and we have a new nuclear deal with a nation that had stopped nuclear. India had set its nuclear aside. It has some of the finest uranium grade on the planet, but America now is providing them with uranium when they don't need it. But America doesn't tell us that a part of the reason why she's in India is because to block an oil pipeline, that India was to cross India from between Iran and Afghanistan. So they don't tell us about that. That's quiet. Though we didn't need that oil pipeline either. But there's so much going on the planet that we need to look at, that we're so seriously in debt, this nation, to China. That serious indebted in the trillions to China.
You know, I don't see how we have any long-term plans to pay off. Do you?
No, our long-term plans is to shoot up everybody, bomb everybody.
Is that sort of seem that way to you, Rick?
Yeah, I think the plan is just borrow as much money as you can and then go blow them up.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think that's occurred to China. That has occurred to China, would you think?
Yeah. Well, I know what's going on with China, and you're right. What I understand basically is China is basically taking over the American economy.
Yes, that's true. They're our greatest.
You know, I kid around that maybe we'll have to get
importer, and we export few.
I was thinking once in a while that maybe we'll have to give them California.
Well, I mean,
Alaska,
North
you
America,
it on Alaska too?
North America is such a wonderful place. I mean, it's our duty to stand up and take it back and make it a decent place to live again. I mean, we have everything over there that we could possibly want. All we have to do is manage it right.
That's correct. That's correct.
Thanks for bringing us back on track, Rick. You're a good listener.
There. No, it's been a great show, though. I've enjoyed this.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to have these few minutes with you. I look forward to more. And, of course, you know, I have a campaign plank that is demanding, in fact, that we bring forth legislation to legalize medical marijuana. And, of course, there are others on the campaign trail who are saying, let's legalize marijuana. So, among us, the Green Party candidates with Howard Hawkins as our gubernatorial candidate, a great man.
Does he have a stand? Does he have a stand on marijuana?
Yes, he does. There's a whole plank on marijuana. I think everybody on the party has a stand plank.
Well, I'm glad to hear at least the Green Party has seen the light. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the whole party has seen the light on that quite some time ago. Just that there's some of us who are for medical marijuana and others are for total legalization of marijuana. So everybody's looking at it though from a medical point of view and from a point of view of the law. That a lot of the legal issues in this country have to do, especially in New York State, with the Rockefeller drug laws, where we have tens upon tens of thousands of youth and behind bars for what? They were smoking a reefer. I mean, how?
And the communities where the prisons are located say, "Oh, it's our cash crop."
That's right. They are their cash crop. The youth become the cash crop because the youth give them jobs. Where the prisons are generally in the areas where poor white communities. Notice they don't put them in black communities. That's very interesting. But they put all these black youth in poor white communities where industry has abandoned these communities. So this becomes the new jobs, a new employment. But also, there's some reapportionment issues involved here because they count for prisoners prisoners who are not allowed to vote are counted as a number in the census, which increases the population of the local areas where the prisons are located.
Right.
Are you, I won't hold you to going more than your half hour, Rick. It's about that time. But if you wanted to talk and without interruption for...
And I'll be quiet, yes.
For a solid 5, 10, whatever you want, you're welcome. It's like I sometimes tell people, you know, here, if you had America listening, what would you like to tell America, kind of thing?
Well, just almost again, like I said before, I mean, America is a wonderful country. And I mean, all through the years when I was growing up, I idolized the United States of America. I thought it was the greatest country in the world. And at that time, it probably was. But, you know, look what's happened. And it's, to me, it really is, it's our fault. And it's up to us to stand and look at our own children and grandchildren and realize that if we don't do something about this now, they're the ones that are going to suffer. It's our watch, and it's our responsibility to do the right thing here. And when I think about all of these children, especially the children in these children's hospitals and places like that, you know, being given poisons and radiations by doctors in white coats, it just sickens me. I mean, why are these doctors not following their own Hippocratic oath? It states right in there, I first do no harm, and I shall not administer poison. So what does a Hippocratic oath stand for? The people have to realize that they can't trust their doctors anymore. Matter of fact, they can't trust their politicians or practically anyone else. So we have to change this world into something that we can all be proud of and to make a future that makes some sense.
Well said.
Well said.
Okay. So, whenever you're in the mood to talk some more, get in touch. My email is joefriendly@earthlink.net for the record.
Hey, Joe.
Okay.
And I'm COLIACLARK@gmail.com. That's COLIACLARK@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. In fact, I would love to be able to bring you in for the campaign at some point.
Well, unfortunately, dear, I have a criminal record for helping people in Canada, so that makes it so I can't get to the United States. But one day soon, I hope to get there, and I would love to meet you.
Well, we have to also then begin to develop a campaign to talk about knocking that record down.
Oh, I'm sorry, Colia. It was COLIA?
That's correct. And CLARK, Clark, CLARK.
At Gmail.
Oh,
And that's gmail.com.
Okay, Colia. Look, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, dear. And I know Joe will be bonding again together very, very shortly now that we're in contact.
Okay, good.
So I hope to be talking to you folks again very shortly.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I wish you the best of luck in the election, dear.
Thank you so much. I thank you for your support.
And I'll be waiting to Fidel.
Dear. Okay, good night, folks.
Good night.
Oh.
You know, when I hear you talking, I was thinking how the problem I have of not having enough experience talking out loud. It's like the more chance you get to just express yourself, you get some momentum going and your thoughts flow freely. And it is a scarcity in our environment to have a chance to talk out loud.
It's true. It's very true. Very, very true. We need to begin to talk out loud, though. Are we on now or are we off?
Yeah, it's still happening.
So we happened in New York. I thought that cut me off.
Oh, I could turn this off, I think. Let's see. Oh, he's coming in through Skype. Oh, so we could turn off Skype.
Skype is what you got to get rid of.
Let's see. Do you know how to do it?
No.
Well, you could just sort of, let's see if there's any stop points here. Check settings. You see an on and off anywhere?
Yeah, I don't see no on. It's a call. I see video. Are we using the computer?
Yeah, it's supposed to be doing it. Let's see.
I mean, are we going to be using the computer?
I mean, you could just turn off Skype by hitting the killer, but yeah, I guess that's all I can think of doing.
If you're not using the computer, why not do that?
And that one.
Yeah, now we got, oh, Paula, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Oh. That's nice.
Gorgeous picture.
So here we are on the Joe
Yeah,
Friendly.
so
You know the name of my show?
Joe Friendly, yes.
No, it's not. We're just calling it that. It's actually called Truth for a Change.
Truth for a change. Hey, it's time for a change. Truth for a change.
And it is sort of teasing the media that they don't offer too much of the real truth, but here is some truth for a change.
Well, they know that. They play with truth when they do find a little of it, or when they choose to do it. No, lately they've gotten so blatant. Fox and CNN make me sick because they've just reached a point where it's just clear they come on to represent either the Republican or the Democrat point of view, and to call that journalism is really a low blow to historic journalism.
You're right.
Because that's worse than yellow journalism. That really is worse than yellow journalism.
I've heard it described as the two sides are the right and the far right.
So the wrong and the wronger. Because neither one of them are right. So we need to reclaim some language here. Because the Republicans have brought us, the right wing in this development, to make right
incidentally
a bad word.
I am amazed that I guess it was a PR focus group decision to grab off the blue and red for the red state, blue state.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
grab the right wingers grabbed off the red rather than the blue.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, you know, they may be red on the outside, but they're blue on the inside. They're the same folk. And I think that the media uses those people who have, I don't know, lost their minds in one sense. Somebody the other day compared, or was it Obama? They were comparing somebody to Hitler. And I said, Hitler? Not coming from the right wing. You know? Can you imagine a right winger comparing somebody to Hitler? The Birchers, and the Nazis, and the Klan, comparing somebody to who? To Hitler? Wake up! Oh, gay and lesbians. Gay and lesbian were to be compared to Hitler.
Wow.
Oh, can you imagine them comparing gay and lesbian? Hitler, I guess now is supposed to be a gay, which was Hitler's business if he were gay.
I hadn't heard, but that's...
But to imagine that they would compare Hitler to the use of Hitler, a gay person as Hitler. And I guess it has to do with the don't ask, don't tell decision of the in the military. So we have reached an age when we really have to begin to reclaim language.
You know, in my programs earlier, like a few days before this will air, I had on a fellow who gave a 2-hour talk on the history of sex and religion. And when he got to the time of the Greeks for what their religion considered acceptable behavior, it basically was a man could be all the things we are normally in the U.S. With a wife and family and children in the house, and then he'd go to the gym and try it all possible ways, gay-wise, and that was considered normal. And
that was normal in Rome too, wasn't it?
Beats me, I guess so.
No, Rome was heavily, how should I say, a society that had heavy gay and lesbian presence. Certainly a gay presence.
And when it comes to the morality with which we treat sexual issues in this country, I am frankly puzzled by the actual basis of the moral authority that they find in religion for their sexual notions. That it does seem like kind of sick that the idea of associating sex and the devil is kind of a pagan step down from earlier efforts in Judaism to not be negative about sex. The worst is if you have sex with a virgin, pay your father off the price he would have had if he sold her as a bride. But not this devilish.
Yeah, but I think that when we go to thinking of sex, we think women.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think that the gay and lesbian piece that's recent. I think that we go back to the Garden of Eden, and we go back to the apple and Adam and Eve, and in the Christian and Judaic traditions. That's female we're talking about. So female is like, for some reason, an evil symbol, a negative symbol. She's not seen as a positive and whole symbol that you get when you come into some of the older cultures. You go again to older cultures, mama becomes primary. If we go into African culture, woman is lifted. We come into most of the native cultures actually, women are lifted. But when you begin to look at, for some reason, the cultures of the Middle East, what we call in the Middle East today, and North Africa, Europe, those cultures seem to be very anti-woman. And now there have been arguments raised that it's because these were not agricultural cultures primarily. People had to move about so frequently in these areas. You might be 7 years a place, you got to pick up and move on because you've used up the soil. You don't have the richness that you have, let's say, in deep Africa, or really on up into Europe, where you got this richness, growth of food, and you got food aplenty. But here in these cultures, and you'll notice that all of these religions come out of this region, out of the same region. Say, for marriage and children, you need a woman. For sex, you need a goat. For love, you need a man. That's a part of the Arab cultures and the cultures of this region. So we have to begin to go back and begin to examine the relationships between the harshness of the natural environment and the shaping of the minds, I think, of people. And I'm not the person to talk on this. I'm sure there are historians and others who can talk on it. It has just crossed over my path across the years. When I look at the blue laws in the United States, I'm frightened with what I see. You know, thou shalt not have sex with a bird. And they weren't talking about chicken.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, look at the blue laws in New York even. We need to go back and look at the old blue laws. And you begin to ask, what on earth, where does it come from? So then these assaults upon human beings. Heterosexuals haven't put themselves in the position of having created a sex called homosex. But they don't see that. When you scream that this is irrational behavior, when you scream that this is abnormal behavior, then you have got to ask, in my mind, how we got the behavior. If God made man and woman to do this and that and the other, then who made homosexuals to do this, that, and the other? They're not self-created. They're heterosexual, then created. We don't deal with these issues because we're too busy in the Western world particularly and needing to put the blame on somebody and needing to have a target to shoot at. You ain't this, you ain't that. I'm pretty, you ugly. Black is ugly, white is pretty. I mean, we into this sickness, and it is a sickness. It is a deep sickness that's a part of Western culture especially, and other cultures that are similar that we need to deal with. We need to deal with sickness as a sickness and ask, how do we come to this point? Is it what happens in societies that are based on capital? Or will we find that it's true in other societies that are non-capital based, that we get these sicknesses?
Well, I think you put your finger, identified a big piece of the problem is that by having the immoral, commercial, irresponsible commercial forces in control of the nation's nervous system, the public media, they have degraded, degenerated our culture into placing an importance on appearances that is basically sick, that causes misery, that is irrational,
Yes.
Um,
yes.
And cries for correction.
Oh, yeah, I think if we just followed the Human Rights Declaration, a lot of our issues would be resolved. To say to America, you need to ratify those areas of the Declaration, those articles that you have been refusing to ratify, and that we will all be governed by international law as laid out by the Human Rights Declaration. Now, I've been talking with some lawyers recently, and my son especially tells me that the areas of it, especially because it's broken into two sections, that there are areas of it where the law is kind of loose and can be so generally interpreted. But whatever, we can strengthen that. That we need to begin to talk about an international law for the planet. We need to take the UN out of the grips of capitalism and Western imperialism and really make it the body that it was designed to be, or dissolve it and create another body that can do that. That's what I see. Because under the UN Declaration of Human Rights, the issues that we have, the issues around sex and other issues, really there in a way that they can be easily resolved, and all humanity can be respected, its rights are respected, and therefore we can go to living without peeking at our neighbors, into our neighbors' bedrooms and back doors or whatever, and do what the old Africans used to say where I grew up: mind your own business. And if you can mind your own business, you're doing well. I mean, really. I really liked it. You ask them questions, oh, mind your business.
I remember you earlier saying to tell the police to mind their own business and not worry about marijuana.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I did meet a police captain when I was making a marijuana video that did say, yeah, marijuana is a waste of the police time.
It is. It is. Yeah. You smell it all over the place. I don't know. I didn't find people who have it all over the place.
And I was saying to Rick when you were in here that, or were you here, that Jefferson smoked it and said that he loved it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but Jefferson was the elite.
Yeah. And
the elite can have cocaine, marijuana, heroin, because they went through all of them. If you go to Rick looking back across the jokes, Freud and everybody,
right?
They could go out and they could experiment. But the average citizen didn't, well, poor people are allowed to experiment with anything. And the middle class should beware. And that's just the rule.
So let's talk about what your life would be like if you were a senator. If you won.
That would be really great. I plan to win.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you can't go in a campaign not planning to win.
Right.
But we need New York 50,000 votes for our governor. We've got to have that. And that's a part of the reason I'm out here. The Green Party needs a ballot line.
Uh-huh.
We've been blocked out. You hear green this and green that, and nobody associated with the party that brought it to us.
Uh-huh.
So we're talking about environmental issues, cleaning up the environment, health issues, food, green. But the party that brought us has been stomped in the head, beaten down, and not allowed to stand up as a political party. So we have to develop the Green Party as a party. That's one. We need the ballot line. We need serious new registered voters for the Green Party. So part of the reason I'm out here hoping to lend my voice to this campaign is to get the Green Party up in New York. There are 44 Green parties in the United States with ballot lines, and New York State needs to be one of those 44. Now, what would my life be like as a senator? It would mean that I'm going to be having no sleep because I'm going to be spending night and day in Washington, other places in the world. Yes, I am. I'm going to read the legislation. I'm going to demand that my staff read the legislation, and my legal staff give me a proper understanding of what's there, because I'm not a lawyer. I won't go down pretending to be a lawyer, and I don't think you have to be a lawyer to be a senator.
Uh-huh.
But you have to have the common sense to have the appropriate legal staff, a trustworthy legal staff, so that they cover all the areas from agriculture and the environment down to civil and human rights. We need to be very clear on that. So I will be in Washington and other parts of the world talking about the new vision for America, and that is a vision where America is going to be about one ending the empire, including the Empire State. We're going to snatch the empire out of New York State and make it a wholesome state that can produce food for itself, that can clothe and house its people itself. So developing the state again with independent markets, because we're going to talk about the communities becoming
localization.
Local communities, farming for yourself, put food on your own table, not depending on others, not having to worry about your child having all kinds of issues and jumping off the wall at school where they give them chemical drugs or more sugar because you are not producing and you don't know what's in the food and that piece of pizza that the child didn't eat. You don't know what's in that piece of pizza. You don't know what's happening with what the child gets. So we have to take control of our environment. There's no excuse to say, well, we're going to go on, we're going to scream and yell and holler. They shouldn't have done that. No, we shouldn't have done that. We should not have allowed ourselves to be consumers to the point where we don't produce for ourselves. New York can feed itself. New York can feed itself. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have interstate commerce with other states that are in the same business of feeding themselves as they were in the old days.
Like so roof gardens, you picture?
We're talking about gardens of all sorts, whether they're hydroponically grown, whether they're grown on roofs, in basements, whether they are grown in the sun.
Oh, they could be grown in the closet even with an electric bill, you think? I mean, I've seen advertisements.
It's a possibility for that. But I don't know about the health of that plant. I would, as a southerner, and probably because I'm a southerner, we had plenty of sun.
Yeah.
But you know, you can start any plant with artificial sun, and I'm sure you can grow it with it. But I would question the vitamin A or the vitamin B or whatever's in that end product. But we have plenty of sun in New York. We got plenty of land. It's how land is used. We have 60 miles of land stretching between the Iroquois Confederation and Lake Placid. I want to talk about that in a few minutes. What's that, Lake Placid? That is just dead trees. Acid rain from years gone by on that St. Lawrence Seaway. Now that land can be reclaimed. That's something we ought to be experimenting on. How do we claim 60 miles of dead trees? One, we need to reforest, but can we use that land and reclaiming it to grow vegetables, to grow hemp?
We're running out of time, so go ahead and cover the other item too.
The other item is John Brown.
Okay.
New York State has placing John Brown's historic site in jeopardy by defunding it. John Brown, for those who don't know, John Brown is a great warrior who was born in Connecticut, went to Kansas and in the Missouri area, all the way back up through Illinois there, fighting against slavery. Growing up in Mississippi, it was very clear to me I had 5 great men and women in my life: Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass, David Walker, and John Brown. John Brown was on our walls just like Abraham Lincoln. John Brown was a part of us. John Brown was executed because of his struggle to free Africans from slavery. We cannot allow John Brown's site up at North Elba, New York, not talked about much in this state, it's played down, but at North Elba, we cannot allow John Brown's site to be left unattended or to be placed in the hands of North Elba, which said it would take it on, but it's a small town, a very small town. All New Yorkers need to join me in September. We're going to give you a date, and we're going to go to North Elba. We're going to take the nation to North Elba because we need to love the man who gave his life. He gave up his life to show us what it meant to struggle for freedom. And we cannot allow him to be desecrated in that way. We must demand that John Brown's farm, where his wife and 21 children lived, and where John Brown and 9 others are buried, to go unattended. So we need to struggle around that piece to make sure that the state does not close it. And more importantly, we need to ask Obama to provide the funding for one of America's greatest heroes, John Brown, Frederick Douglass, David Walker, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, who is also from New York. It's very important that we honor these people and never, ever, ever allow anybody to abuse them. in the name of not having resources, especially not having financial resources. There's no cost for that. We must save John Brown's site.